is that it's smaller. So it's about 30% smaller. It looks about half size because it didn't just shrink this way. It expanded out a little bit. But the way we were able to do that was we redesigned the heatsink so that it creates this new, almost frictionless air vortex. Okay. So it means we use more of the heatsink.
Frictionless
air vortex. Which does a number of things.
Is there a test on that later?
What's that?
Is there a test on that later?
Yes, there'll be a test.
Frictionless air vortex.
Just say it's cooler. That works across the board.
Okay.
And then, but it does a number of things. One, it allows us to shrink the size because it doesn't need as much space. It also, second big thing it does is allows us to put more power out of even the smaller space. So we're 25% more output.
Right.
Third thing it does is it makes it lower maintenance. So because there's no more space for dust to get trapped, and also because the air is moving evenly across the whole thing, there's nowhere for it to build up. So unlike the existing lights, it doesn't have to be maintained as often. You don't have to blow it out that often. And long-term maintenance, you shouldn't have to open it up at all, which is what you have to do with the 360s after about 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And then on top of that, that output that increased 25%. It's wider, yeah. So
I did read some of the stuff.
Yeah, you read some of it. So instead of just making it brighter in the area that it's in,
it's expanded its distance.
We expanded it and made it more even. So the peak output in one spot in the middle is lower, but the average output is higher.
Gotcha. Now, what size tanks do you recommend them for?
If it's medium to low light, you can do up to 36 inches. So you can see that tank there, 3 foot, no problem. That's for plants or for coral. If you've got some SPS or you've got kind of a big mix, it'll go in between 24 and 36. And if you've got all SPS, we wouldn't recommend over 24. Which the existing light, it's 18.
So you gain 6 inches.
Yeah, pretty much.
And is that 6 inches both directions?
It's 3 inches on each side. Yeah. But it's not just those extra 3 inches. Those extra 3 inches, it's also covered more even.
Right.
So you get less shading, especially when you overlap lights.
Okay.
Electronically, everything changed. So there's nothing that's even close to the same. So
I saw your controller, but Chris didn't know how to work it.
Okay, yeah, I'll show you that too. But the 2 biggest things is we've opened up some of the color control, so people can change things visually that they couldn't before. So now instead of just the base tuna blue range, with color temperature, now you can also tweak some of the finer tuned colors. So like violet, indigo, red, green. Again, this is different from everyone else in that it's not modifying the spectrum too much. It's just enough to change it visually, but not to damage anything.
Now, is there any purpose to that for the corals, or it's just to highlight it better that way?
I mean, it might highlight some different colors better. It might have better fluorescence in certain ranges.
Okay.
So that's why we did it, because we want people to be able to change a little bit so they can change how for us, how it looks. The other thing is that it has ultra low dimming now, so it goes all the way to 0 instead of cutting off at 10%. Okay. So it means smoother transition.
Boys and girls,
wait for that.
Welcome to Aquatic Experience 2018. Our show is now open.
That's the wake up signal. Brutal. Yeah. It also means that you can run moonlight off this light. It's built in, basically. Every channel can turn into a moonlight if you want. Then connectivity-wise, we changed it from analog to digital. And because we had such a small size, we decided to go with a small connector, USB-C. It's already designed to be for harsh environments. So it holds up just as well, if not better, than the existing one. And then it doesn't matter where you plug it in, so you can't confuse input and output like before. Now the connections also, once you connect them to each other, each one has its own identity. So even if you have the same chain, each light can do its own thing. Got that net there. The controller too has changed quite a bit. It looks the same, similar anyway. And aside from the color changes and the button change, it's now powered by the new lights.
Okay.
So you don't have the extra plug that you got to worry about.
Gotcha.
It does have an older 0 to 10 volt port, so they can use it with older lights. If they're using it with older lights only, they need to have like one of those little USB bricks to plug in the wall, because it no longer comes with it.
Does this replace the other one, or is it in addition to?
Replace.
Replace.
Yeah. This replaces the other one. If people are just buying older lights, they can just buy the old one. It's not a real big difference. But you can see here it identifies how many lights there are. So I could technically separate these two to different programs without changing the chain. Okay. So I could have 30 lights on the same chain and make each one its own group.
Your store could have a bank of aquariums and each tank be different.
Exactly. Without having to run different connections.
Right.
And then when the Wi-Fi module comes out next year, you won't have to use this. You can use that instead. And you can do the same thing. The nice thing is you only need one module for up to 30-something lights.
Wow.
So you don't have to worry about as many interference. You don't have to worry about having to upgrade your lights every time Wi-Fi changes or the protocol changes.
Now can you control both old and new on there?
Yeah. So if you look here, you'll see it's got a spot it detects if it's tuna blue, if it's tuna sun, or if it's the old 0 to 10 volt. So there's 3 different parts of that. And then also you've got access to things like, if I go into manual mode here, so you can see there's the extra channels there. And then you can see here's weather effects and all those fancy things. And then you can separate the groups. So I could actually see that button there. I could change the group of one of those lights. Go like down here. It's going to look for the lights, and I can take one of those and put it into a new group. So it would do its own thing. But I'm not going to do that.
What's the limit to lights you get up to?
Up to 30?
The number you can actually hook to this is unlimited. There might be a limit, but we recommend 30 as limit for us. The number of groups I think is limited to 32 or something like that. Put it back on the program. Yeah.
And what you were saying about the Kessil, I mean, obviously we know about the blended spectrum and things like that nobody else can do. But you were saying something where people would compare it to T5s. The fact that they would, it's a lot more wattage. So if they put the equal wattage Kessil.
Yeah, it's going to do just as much. So if you're looking at getting rid of shading, you can just stagger the lights. Or if you have a bigger tank, we recommend going to AP700 because it has the hybrid optics.
Right.
So this new one, the X series, is much more advanced optics than the 360s were. So it's kind of in between the 360 and the AP700.
And then you were saying that you're going to have a lens for it so that it can do more narrow beam.
Yeah, we'll have 2 optical accessories for sure. One is going to be a diffuser. The other one is going to be a reflector to narrow it to a spot. So instead of being 3-foot coverage, it might go down to like 18, but then it'll penetrate, instead of 24 to 30, it'll penetrate like 4 or 5 feet.
And those are the better of the mounts.
Yeah, it works with all the existing mounts. The new link cable is a USB-C cable. So I think our retail is going to be 25, but right now you won't be able to find any cheaper. I mean, even on Amazon, they're still more than that. Especially when you include, we've got like a 90-degree adapter, which is on here. You can see it. I can pull it out. This little piece here, that by itself costs as much as the cable.
Wow.